let's get this started. So tonight, we're really excited. You'll see today or tonight that the three of us are former educators. We're going to take a little bit of time to introduce ourselves, but we're really excited here. We've got an excellent panel, I might add, for Essentials and Live, and we really want to take some time to help you get started with Brainingcamp, because we love it, and we know that a lot of you are going to grow to love it if this is your first experience with it. So quick agenda. We're going to do some introductions, and then Ryan is going to take us through the basics of Brainingcamp, and then Kara is going to begin or take us through a live session, and then we will talk about one of the resources that we have, our tasks that we developed last year and we're continuing to develop. All right, so I'm going to start, if that's all right. My name is Mark Schmidt. I'm the Vice President of Education here at Brainingcamp. Prior to coming to Brainingcamp, I was a middle school math teacher for 14 years. Most of my time was, I would say, fifth grade to pre-calculus, but the majority of my experience was with eighth graders when we called it pre-algebra and algebra 1. So as you can imagine, in the pre-algebra, at that time, pre-Common Core, way pre-Common Core, mile wide, inch deep, really made me be more creative with the content to keep my eighth graders engaged. And yes, I did use manipulatives with my eighth graders. We referred to them as sense-making devices at that time, because the thinking was, hey, these are going to help you make sense of the math that we're going to go through. Since leaving the classroom in 1999, I think that's why Prince wrote that song, I've been in development for the last 23 years. I've been in development. I've been developing either content or products. Started out with assessment development and working with state departments of education to develop their high stakes tests. Very interesting process in developing the items, reviewing them with the state, reviewing the data to make sure that they're valid and not biased, but not a lot of creativity, right? So then I then got involved in more product development and content development. I have, in my time with a supplemental publisher, about a dozen years, designed and produced a few math manipulatives, a lot of supplemental content on how to incorporate math manipulatives into your instruction at that, to get it to that conceptual level and the concrete representational abstract methodology. And also I was with a Basel publisher and just finished a core K-5 math program right before coming to Brainingcamp. So you see my contact information is there. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, anything. Feel free to reach out to any of us, I'm going to say, here at Brainingcamp. All right. And Kara?
Hi, I am Kara Reen. I am the Customer Success Manager here at Brainingcamp. So kind of just with the teachers all the time and with you guys, and anyone that if you need help with anything, just reach out. Feel free to let me know. My background is not as cool as Mark's. I only have 13 years teaching experience. I taught pre-K and kinder and third and fourth grade. And then I became a math specialist at a school level for a couple of years, and then kind of a math specialist, same thing at the district level for a total of 5 years. And so coaching kind of became one of my favorite things to do, and working with teachers and showing them how to make math visual. So that's when I came across Brainingcamp, actually in my last, my district. And I found it and was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And now I work for them, training teachers all over the world. So it's super fun. And I'm also learning so much with Brainingcamp. I have learned so much even in the last few years from the people that we get to work with. These math experts all the time are helping us and helping us create content. And so I've learned so much from them as well. So that's just a little bit of background about me. Ryan, you're up.
All right. So my name is Ryan Doherty. I'm the Director of Sales here at Brainingcamp. I've had that job for about 2 years now, but before that, I was an elementary school teacher. I've taught in Ohio at a special needs school, and then I was a substitute teacher outside of Cleveland. Moved down to North Carolina in the early 2000s, where I was a teacher in Union County School outside Charlotte. And then the last of my public school career, I was a math coach for 8 years. And when I was a math coach, I focused mostly on 3 through 5, but I helped the K2 math coach, and I worked with the middle school math coach. So I tried to see that spectrum of things. And in that role, I had a lot of great opportunities to work with teachers all across the state. I was part of a couple MSP grants as a trainer for them in the summer. I helped write the curriculum multiple times before we decided to go with Common Core, which really helps you like dig into all the things that kids really need to know and the spectrum of what they need to know across the grade levels. But about 8 years ago, I had a change in careers. I went to sell physical manipulatives because I loved every time I needed manipulatives, or every time I needed help with teaching, I would go to manipulatives. So I went to work for a company that makes the physical manipulatives and sold those in North and South Carolina. That led me to selling hands-on science programs, a core program. And then I had always loved Brainingcamp. I had met the guys who developed Brainingcamp back when I was selling the physical manipulatives. And the minute they said they needed a salesperson, I went running to them and said, please, please, please let it be me. And been very lucky to work with the people on this panel and the people who developed Brainingcamp to make it the tool that it is for you. So let's actually stop with the introductions and start showing you what you came to see. Let's start looking at some Brainingcamp stuff.
All right, sounds good. I'm going to stop sharing, and then I believe you're up, Ryan.
Yeah. All right. So the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to be just kind of giving you the basics of Brainingcamp. If you are familiar with Brainingcamp, we're going to do it a little bit differently than what we've done before, kind of to mix it up for us and for you. But one of the first things I wanted to show you, now that you've signed up for your trial, Mark said that this is a classroom trial. And this is going to allow you and your students access to Brainingcamp. It looks like if you signed up for it today, you get that through June 25th. So most of you will have this for the remainder of your school year. So I'm just going to sign in first. When you brought in, this is our hub page or our main page that everything is found on. Up here in the upper right corner where it says accounts, you're going to want to click on that. Someone please put the code in to the chat for those who are missing it. When you click on accounts, this is where you can add your different people to the to your list, and yours should be highlighted students, right? So when you have your students, all you have to do is hit start. This is basically saying you need one username, one password. We don't require all kids to have their own unique ones. You're gonna make one for your class. It keeps it simple for you. A kid joins you between now and the end of the year, you don't have to make a new one up for them. Just give them this one. You can select if you want to do it. If you have a school-wide license, you do it for the whole school or just my students. But really, just make a username and password. It says here it can even be the same thing, right? As long as it's unique and hasn't been used before, you just make up whatever you want it to be. And then when you hit submit, you've created that. Then all your students can use that same username and password to log in. And they get pretty much the same thing that you're going to get. As far as the manipulatives go, they're going to be able to do everything that you're going to be able to do. There's some of the stuff at the top of the page here that they don't need: resources, webinars, pricing. We get rid of that for them, but for you, that's there. There's one other big feature that Kara's going to show you later. Is called Brainingcamp Live, and that is only on the teacher version. So it's very important when you do sign in, you sign in with your email, and the kids sign in with that username and password that you created for them. So, all right. So like I said, we're going to look at some basics of Brainingcamp, but in a slightly different way. Normally when I do these, I use linking cubes, but today I'm going to start with place value disks. So when you open Brainingcamp, the first thing you should notice is you have as much space as we could possibly give you to do work. We try to give a workspace here, this giant whiteboard for them to do as much work as they can. We have tools across the bottom. In this case, we have manipulatives across the top. Sometimes they're down the left. Most times they're down the left. But what's really simple about Brainingcamp is you just click on something and drag it out. You can click on any of these objects, drag it out, and then once it's on the page, it can be moved to wherever you want it to be. I'm just going to click and make a box around them, and now I have a group, and now I can move this whole group at one time, right? So nice and simple. You notice here too, once it's on the page, we call it an object once it's on the page. And then if you were to click on the object or a group of objects, some tools pop up. And this allows you to do some different things like copy or delete. And so you can add pieces quickly that way. Another way that you can add pieces besides clicking and dragging is just put one out. I'm going to use a 10. Just put one out and then click. Just quickly click on the next one, and it will add one more piece every single time that you click it. So yeah, I mean, that's the three ways you can do it. You can add it yourself, copy it, or click to get the next piece. You have an unlimited supply of manipulatives, right? Because we're digital, we can have 70, 80, 10s on the screen. You know, that's unlimited amounts of them, where you wouldn't be able to do that with some of the other manipulatives in your classroom. One of the things that I've always liked about Brainingcamp, and I've heard many teachers say about it too, is that we have these tools that you can do things that you can't with physical manipulatives. For instance, if I group select more than 10, I have a button right here that says regroup. And what it's going to do is have a video of these pieces coming together, and it's going to make that 100, right? And it's a really good visual for kids whenever they think, you know, they want to see like, hey, when these 10 come together, they make this. They're going to see that happen. It can go one way and it can go the other way too. I can click on it, and then I can break that apart, and it'll break it into 10 pieces. This is wonderful when you're talking about place value and other concepts like that. Across the bottom in this brownish bar right here, we have tools that are specific to the manipulative you're working on. So here I have whole numbers. I can also turn it to decimals. And I can just toggle back and forth between those. So maybe I'm only dealing with whole numbers in my earlier grades, but then as I get up into the middle grades, I want to do some decimals. I can make that change, and the tools are there for teachers to do it. I can turn an eye on, and now whenever I add a piece, I'm going to use whole numbers. Whenever I add a piece, the count changes for me. You know, and it's going to keep a track of all the things that are on the page at the time. I even have over here tens frames and a frame of different sizes. Now these, you're going to find these in different places. Just got to click on it, not drag it out. They're in a couple of different manipulatives. But what I think is really cool about this is if I wanted to fill this, instead of having to go one at a time and fill it in, and they do fill in there, I can group select them and drag them over. And when I get close, you can see that they're going to say, this is where they're going to go. And when I release my mouse, they all automatically fill that. You're going to find that tool in a bunch. I think it's in color tiles. I think it's in linking cubes and a few other ones. So then down in the bottom, we have our tools that are available for all of the manipulatives, right? I can clear these, can lock it so students can use certain manipulatives. We'll get to that question maybe at the end here. But I can, this is my clear all, this is go back one step at a time, go forward one step. So I can kind of go back and forth with some of my questions or my thinking. If I want to show what a kid did, I can step back and then step forward with it. I have a pen and a highlighter here. And when I click on those, I have different colors and different thicknesses. But then over here on the side, I also have a text tool that I can write my directions. Right? And once I click off that, this is now an object and it can be moved to wherever I want it to be. And you see, I also have tools up here that allow me to change the size, the color, and I can make the page look however I want it to. The last thing I want to show you is down here in the bottom corner where it says basic. Brainingcamp automatically defaults to the main page, just an empty page, like you put the manipulatives on the kids' desks. But I can change it to different work mats that I want to do. So I can do place value, I can do comparing or subtracting. I'm going to choose comparing because I think this is such a cool way that this does this. And now I have two sides. I have a number on this side, and I'm going to compare it to a number on this side. So I could say 100 on this side, and notice the greater than, less than, and equal sign automatically go in there for me. We could have kids talk about how many tens do you need to make 100? And once I had my 10 tens, you can see that it made that equal sign. If I take one of them away, it adjusts. And now it says, well, this is larger. If I added two more, it's going to go the other way and say, this is greater, right? So it'll help with that. But yeah, there's 56, 57 workspaces on here. So 16 manipulatives with 50 something different workspaces. There are tons and tons and tons of things that you can do. So I want to kind of continue that and show you some other things. Now, I think I saw some questions in there. Mark and Kara, correct me if I'm not right. People were saying, how can kids see the page that I'm working on, right? Was that one of the questions?
One of them was how to see it, if you could zoom in or out, and then also if you could share it. Okay,
so zooming in and out right now is not something that we can do. Yeah, just double checked it. It is just this workspace, but that is something that we're maybe coming in the near future. We'll say that. And then to make a page, so you can set this page up, you can do your directions, make it look as pretty as you want it to look. Up here where it says share, I can click on this share, and it gives me some options that I can do a share code. I can go live, copy my image, or download my image. When I do a code, it's going to, when I click on it, it gives me an 8-letter and number combination that I can share with everybody. And basically what happens is they are brought to their version of that page and they can work on it on their own. So this one here is just made for this page right now. Don't worry about that one. But I can copy this. I can write it up on the board. The kids go in, they type in where they need to go, and then everybody is brought to that same exact page. So I want to show you one that I just made last week in preparation for today. When you're on the main page, up in the upper right corner, it says share code. And here is the share code that if you want to type in, you can. XTVYZFCN. And I'm going to just copy that real fast and put that in the chat. So if you wanted to copy it there, you can do that as well. Covering up my chat. Thank you, Mark. All right. And then when I hit go, it's going to take me to that page. Now, what I think is fantastic is that this page is unique to you. It's the same page that I created, but it's not like a Google Doc that we can all share and work on it at the same time. This is my page. So I took you to pattern blocks, and I wanted you to see that our pattern blocks look just like the other pattern blocks that you have in the classroom. We have the same ones, right? And you can click on them, and you have tools that you can turn the fill on and off. You can rotate them. You can flip them. Oops, flip them that way. You can lock the pieces in there. But I actually went and I made another work mat here. So if I go down here to basic and change it to fractions, and you can do the same thing if you've used that code, I can go to fractions, and now we have the fraction pieces. If you've ever seen the pattern blocks with fractional pieces, you can teach a lot of different concepts with them. So if you haven't, I kind of set this up for you. If the yellow hexagon is 1, then the red is a half, the blue is a third, and we can go on and show all the different ones there. The other thing that I did was when on my page, when I clicked on these, I locked it. And when I lock that in there, you can't move that hole, because I want that to be there, right? So if I wanted to do the problem, what did I say? 1/2 plus 1/3. I could set this page up maybe want to type those directions out. I come up here to hit share, and then I hit share code. And then I can take this, copy it, put that in the chat, write it up on the board, wherever I want. And now whenever the kids go there, they're going to be brought to this page with the 1/2 plus 1/3. You don't need to do that if you don't want to, but I just wanted to show you that, that's how you make a share code. The great thing about share codes is once you have it, it's always there. So I'm going to skip some of these ideas here. But one of the things I wanted to show you was if I put this on top, you can see they kind of hover over. So 1/2 plus 1/3. I can then take these 6 and say that's 1/6, 2/6, 3/6. And then I have to rotate this one a little bit to get it there. Copy it. And now I can see that 1/2 plus 1/3 is 5/6. I'm going to skip the next part, but I did have one here in decimals. If you wanted to check out, we have a decimal work mat where these all represent a different decimal. The last thing I'm going to show you is quite possibly my favorite tool on here. And it's the hundreds board. So I just want to show you the versatility of these manipulatives. And in the hundreds board, when you go there, it opens up. Now, most of you have seen hundreds boards before. And in my opinion, when I first started using these, they were great for the early learners, the K2, maybe sometimes in 3rd grade, we would use them, but I really didn't see much value for them beyond that. But I was wrong because there's so much you can do with these. The first thing is going across the tools here. I have it set as 100. I can change it to 120. If your numbers ask you to go to 120, a quick click like that will do that. I have whole numbers and I have decimals. So I can choose my board however I want it to look. Then I have this tool here. If I clicked on a number, it turns it off, right? So I can turn on all my numbers. I can have none of my numbers on, and I can even have part of them, and it just randomizes them. So maybe I could do an activity like this that says, what is this number? I'm going to paint the number. What is this number right here? Right? So in the chat, someone or everyone, tell me what number was highlighted in the orange. And if you really want to be good, thank you, everyone's saying 77. How do you know it's 77? I saw someone say 57 plus 20. Excellent. So I'm going to use my tools over here. This plus 10, 57 plus 10, plus 10 more, plus 20. Hey, I got the 77. And that's awesome. Someone said 79 minus 2. Well, I use my minus 1, minus 2. And I'm at 77. Someone say maybe 75 plus 2. I can go the other way, plus 2, right? I can then change my number and say, okay, well, what is the value of this number right here? And kids can talk about different ways that they're going to be able to find that is 33, right? So that's a fun one. That's a great activity you can do there. Coming across, this is where I think I'm going to clear that, put all my numbers on here. This was a tool I didn't realize was available, and I keep forgetting to show people this. But here where it says 1 to 100, I can click on this, and I have a slider that lets me change my 100 board to 200s, 300s, 400s. Maybe I'm doing an addition problem in the 700s. I can come up here and say, I'll start here at 712 plus whatever, and I could do all my problems that way. So that's a great little tool to have there. And then if you are one of the people who believe, and I agree with you sometimes, that hundreds boards are upside down and that they should be starting down here and working their way up because numbers get larger as they move up. You have that ability here to click that button and change that with just a click of a button. All right, 2 more things, and then I'm running out of time. We have a multiples page, and on the multiples page, you can look for, flip that over. You can look for patterns by just adding a chip, and there's your multiples of 2. There's multiples of 3, 4, 5, and kids can start looking for patterns in their numbers. And I always said, people always told me there was no pattern for 7s. But when I move it on to 7s, I can clearly see a pattern there. If I'm teaching great or least common multiples, right? And I want to know what's the least common multiple of 7 and 3. Well, I could do 7 and 3 and try to find the numbers that match, or I could use a different color. And I could pull 3 out here. And you should all know hopefully you all know what the least common multiple of 7 and 3 is. So watch what happens to that number when I let go of my mouse. You see both patterns, the 3 and the 7. And when we get to one that matches, you have 21, 42, 63, 84, right? And then I can remove these. Oops. Ignore those first ones up there. But I can remove these and see a pattern, and maybe a kid could tell me what the next number was going to be, right? All right, last one, and I'm already 3 minutes over, but I need to show you this because it goes into the next thing we're doing. We have a rounding board, right? The rounding board allows you to me, the analogy I always use is this is a rooftop, and you're flying over it in a drone or whatever. You're looking down at the peak of the roof, which is right down here in the middle. These blue numbers are your gutters. And if you threw a ball up on the roof, depending on what side of the roof it lands on, that ball's going to roll down into one of the gutters. Well, the same thing is true with rounding. If I throw a ball up onto the board and it lands here on 52, it's not going to round up to 60. It's going to round down to 50. So when I let go, it rolls down to 50. Maybe if I had 36, it will round up to 40, right? I can add different colors, and you can see that it's going to round for you. My tools down here allow me to change it to rounding to the nearest 100, 10, 1, 1/10, and 100th. So I could round to many, many different numbers. So, all right, that is my part of tonight. And Kara, I think you're going to pick up from where I left off. And
I am. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ryan. You did great. Showing all of some really basic, cool features that we have with Brainingcamp.
Thank you.
So let's talk about kind of what he was going into. Oh, I'm going to share my screen. So let's talk about a little bit. He was talking about the hundreds board. So he created a share code with me that I'm going to kind of, we'll talk about the share code in just a minute. But I love that when we were talking earlier, Ryan and I were going back and forth, and he said, well, here's this share code, use this one. And I was like, oh, I love that. And I thought, why aren't we all sharing our share codes? So we take time to make them, and we're a community of teachers, and we need to share. So we thought that we came up with this hashtag that it says hashtag share Brainingcamp. So if you create a share code that you would like to put on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, put that hashtag with it so that other people know to look for those and can go and get some really good share codes. I mean, like I said, we all spend time creating these things. And so that's kind of the hashtag that we would like you to use. Live is a place that you can go and you will be able to see all of your students working in real time. The more you play with live, the more you will discover. So I'm going to get you started with some basics. And then hopefully the more that you are interacting with it, the more you'll discover that you'll be able to do with it as well. So let's use this share code. You don't have to worry about this one because I do want you to go live with me in just a second. You can start from a blank screen. You go into a manipulative. So I'm going to go into the 100 board. I could share from here and go into a live session, but I would like to start from the really cool share code that Ryan created earlier. So this is kind of with that rounding 100 board that we were just talking about. So it says, listen to the teacher, call out the numbers. We're going to place a chip on the board. That's the instructions, but I'm going to ask you to first go live with me. So when you press share, you have an option. You have 4 options here, and one of those is to go live. So as a teacher, I press share, and then I press live, and then it asks me, are you ready to start your live session? And then I say yes. Once I have this session, this is the code that you're going to use to enter into the same place the share code is. So I'm going to copy this code. Oh, thank you, Ryan. He already did it. You're going to copy the code. See how quick, I mean, all I did was press copy code. And now you can see people joining my session. So there is a quick how to use live video right there that you're able to see if you need a little help. But in order, if you don't know where to go, you click go back to Brainingcamp. You click the same place that you entered the share code box. That's where you'll enter it. Once you click go, you press join live session. This is the student's view. And now as a student, I am number 21. So you get 2 characters to enter as a student. You can change them to whatever you want. You can do initials. You can do numbers, whatever it is that how you as a teacher want to identify your students using 2 characters. So if I press continue, now I am in a live session. And this is my student view. Come look at my teacher view, and let's talk about the teacher view for just a second. Up here in this left-hand corner, you have your live code. And as we're waiting for people to join, as we're waiting for people to come in and continue to join, you're going to see this code here. Up here, you'll see a load button, which we'll talk about in just a second, a push button, and then again, you'll see the number of people. And when I click that thing, it kind of drops down. So if I want my students to look at my screen, you're able to do that. This right here, there's this white kind of bar. I call it my whole class bar. Anything you do from that bar, excuse me, there's a lot of pollen in my area, is whole class. So this, I like to think of it as my whole class bar. Here's my number of people in my live session. I can send a message to my entire class. So if I press send message, I can say great job and press send. And you should all have that updated on yours. And it's not, because it didn't do it to mine. Interesting. Okay, so PDF export. Oh, you did get the message. Okay, maybe it just was slow on mine or something. Perfect. Thank y'all for commenting. So that's a whole class message. It's going to go straight to you. There is a PDF export, which we'll talk about more in a little bit, but it's going to create an image of every student in your class in that moment. And I can lock the activity. So what I've done now is locked the activity. I'm going to remove 0, 0. If it's you, Ryan, or if you could rejoin, I removed it because I made myself 0, 0, and it's not doing anything.
It was me.
So,
thank you.
Oh, sorry. Well, it was my 0, 0 too, because we both were. So I have this live session going here, and now I've locked your screens. You can unlock and lock the activity of your group. And when you are looking here, this in particular, I love that I can see people already raising their hand and doing things. I don't know why it's not unlocking on my screen. So here's the carrot. If you would like to see what's happening bigger, you go here and I can see all of you working in real time. And if I would like to see it a little bigger, I press that 4 square and it makes me see it a little bit bigger. So now I am able to send a message, PDF export, or lock everybody's activity. Individually, though, I'm able to give some feedback. So there are 3 emojis here that I can give very quickly. I can go scroll through to give individual feedback, or I can press my 3 buttons and it gives me also some individual as well. I can send a message just to that student and I can load just that student screen. But let's just see here. I'm going to listen to the teacher call out some numbers. I'm going to place a chip on the board and then you're going to raise your hand. On the student screen, I got out of it, but there was a place that says raise hand. So it's like right here on your screen. So I'm going to call out a number, 22 hundredths. So now I would like you to raise your hand. Did you round down? Did you round up? Or are you not sure? Good question. At this time, the students can only raise their hand, but they are able to type. So if you have it, you could, in theory, you could tell your students, if you have a question, I want you to put a purple box so that the teacher can see it and you can write your question in there. Is there a limit in terms of number of participants? So not usually. Usually I think we've had up to like 150 in here before. I will say my computer seems to be a little bit like, these screens are locked. I'm going to go ahead. Oh, no, never mind. Don't, because see, this person's still able to move their screen. It just looks like it's locked on mine. So when I press the up caret now, I can see very quickly student responses. I can see I can see red, I can see green, I can see yellow. So I'm able to see very quickly what students need my help and what they don't. So what I meant by the purple box is I'm going to get rid of here. If you add a shapes tool, and you can make it purple, you can just say, if you have a question that you would like, you can put a purple box and you just can change the color. And then they can add a question by putting some text in there. So this is just a suggestion that I have. Like, like I said, the more you use live, the more you'll be able to kind of be like, oh, if my students, I won't be able to do this, how can I make that happen? Oh, that's it. That's a way to do it. So I'm actually going to join my live session. So I'm going to copy this code. Okay. So what I did there is, like, if a student came in late, I can go back, give them the code. Now you're able, that's just one way to use the raising hand option. And I loved it. And that's why I asked Ryan to share it with me, because that is a way to use it. You can, or it could be like, red means I'm stuck and green means I'm really good and I've already asked my partner, but I need you to come check on it. Or yellow might mean I need to use the restroom. So there's so many different things that you're able to kind of create those boxes on your own. Now, the teacher does not have the option to put the hand down. So what I'm going to ask you to do is everybody click it and make sure your hand goes back down. And so you are able to see, like, if here's the raise hand. So I'm able to raise it. When I come back to Brainingcamp, I should be able to see it, but y'all are so good. Y'all are all following directions except for me. See, look at that. I can see one person, and that would be me. And so I'm going to put my hand back down. Now, since y'all are doing so fabulous, I love that you're adding purple boxes. I can see that you maybe have a question, or and I can see movement on the screen now. And so you're able to do that. And you can take those, take a few minutes, drop them on there, see how the rounding thing works. But as a teacher, I know how important it is to show multiple representations of things. And I also know how important it is to show children different ways to do things. And how can I do that very easily and quickly when we're talking about rounding? Well, base 10 blocks, number lines, rec and recs, these are all great hands-on tools and virtual tools to help teach rounding. And we know that multiple representations help that concrete understanding. And we know that's like super, super important as a teacher to show all of these things. So I'm going to load another activity. And here it is. This is a number line I created. So I created this number line because it's a number path. So I was talking maybe when we were first introducing rounding. If you press load, you're able to change the manipulative that you're working on by entering a new share code. So here I pressed load and now I'm opening it. So I might say, I'm going to lock your activity because I want everyone to look at my screen. So I might say a message and say eyes on me. So now I've locked your screen and I've sent you a message that says eyes on me. And that means let's look at this activity now that we're going to do together. So here I've just put several, to make a number path, I put several 5 frames together and then put text in each one. And we're talking about rounding 17 to the nearest 10. 17 is between 10 and 20 and is closer to 20. So I know that because I've labeled my 10s, and I've also created these kind of interactive color tiles so that my students have a good idea. And this, like I said, this is an intro, but I want my students to work on it. So I might push this to all of you. Now, when I push, your screen will disappear. So now your screen has been updated. And I want you to take like 1 second, fill this in. I got to unlock you first. I want you to fill this in, continue to work. And I'm going then to save your work, because as a teacher, I know that I might be using it for RTI purposes or a parent conference, or maybe I did a grade. If you did not get the update, I'm going to try again. Sometimes you don't get it if your browser is not refreshed. So make sure you refresh your own browser. Like on yours, on your browser, press refresh. And so that should help, because mine says it's not locked. If you exited live and are coming back in, you'll just enter the same code and it'll let you back in. Okay, so now again, I can see people are working, and I'm going to load this person's screen just to get a good idea. I'm going to give them some really positive feedback here. So not only can I give feedback with an emoji, but I could type something too. I love how quickly you were able to do this. Now, when I have this up, they are not able to see it. They won't see it. So this is, I'm viewing 05 screen. I'm going to push it back to 05 and press push. And now you can see here that I have updated them. So I'm not sure why there's so many screens not refreshing. Yeah, I would try maybe closing the window and signing back in, because I do see several people, looks like they didn't get the update. And sometimes the internet can be silly. So if you press close though, now I'm back to my screen. So now here I am back to rounding on a number path. Again, this was just a very basic Did you mean to put 3 is between? Oh, yes, I did mean to do that. You're very correct. See, I didn't, 3 is between, and then this one actually should be 11. Thank you so much for catching my mistake. So those, and I also like to put sentence stems to also help students, so that not only, especially when they're first beginning to work, they're able to explain it. And I say, turn around and tell your partner what that thing is. And then I start to take the sentence stems away, and then they are able to start explaining their work in their own terms. So I could push this, like Ryan said, and I could push it to everybody. I can make the correction in real time. Now, I want to create a PDF export of this. Y'all's work is so great. I want to make sure I make, let's say we've done it. I'm going to go through time, so I'm not going to have you do anything. If you would like to, go ahead and continue to work. But when you create this PDF export, it will send a download to your folder. And in the folder, you have now images of every single thumbnail. The identification of the student is there, the date that you did it, and how many participants. Like I said, these can be used. You can see so many didn't update, but that doesn't normally happen. You can now use these for grades. You can use them for parent conferences and all of those things. And you have this documentation ready to go. Now, as a live participant, as a teacher, I'm going to exit the session. I have to go start another session. It's still on your page. The students did not exit. The students page did not leave. See, it didn't update mine either. but I can share back with my teacher by copying that image. So, and I can put it on a Google Doc or anywhere that my teacher might have wanted to. That is the very, very basics of live. And we will share more next time, but I want to leave time for Mark because he's going to go over some other wonderful things.
Wow. Okay. Thank you, Carrie. That was awesome. And you too as well, Ryan. I don't want to just single out Kara. Thank you so much. All right. Let me get to share my screen. I just want to take a few minutes. We have a couple minutes left. To show you some of the things that one that we've developed, and then also some of the other ways that you can use Brainingcamp. And I'll try not to talk as much with my hands. So I'm going to go into this Google Doc that we've been using. I just want to show a couple of routines that we created. Now, we all, we survive in the classroom through the use of routines, right? Whether it's collecting homework, whether it's turning assignments in, or even having these instructional routines that we don't need to use time to describe to kids how to do them, right? It's a routine. They know how to do it. They can come right in, they can get to work, and we can start to have those discussions with them as they're working on these routines. So one of them that I made the other day was make a match, right? All about cardinality and conservation of number. How can I, show kids, or how can we have kids experience those things that, conservation, that it doesn't matter about the organization of the number of objects, it's still the same number. So I call this one make a match, right? So we could use the pen tool to, let's see, make sure I get it right, to connect these. And, how did I make those? These are just shapes. How did I make them look like a card? I just brought a shape out from the shapes tool. And then here for these little dots, I just brought out a circle, made it small, and added some fill. So really simple tools are in there that I can use to create these routines. One other routine, I'm going to go to one of my favorite, because I just think of, mind's blown here. I think of, again, I was a middle school teacher, so a little bit of middle school content here, and thinking of just a way to have some really, really good mathematical discourse. Use the location. You know what? I'm going to adjust this so it goes one line. Use the location of opposite of x. Notice I didn't say negative x, because saying negative x would imply that it's negative. Quick routine. Where does the number go? You might call it. Using the location of the opposite of x on the number line to place the following. Now, what I did, I gave each a letter, and all I did here, so that they had something to drag, is I just created two text boxes, right? So if I'll get rid of that one. Well, you know what? I'll just take this one, I'll unlock it, copy it, place it right on top of there. So now they have one that they can drag, right? So if this is the opposite of x, where might 2x be, right? And I could bring this out over here. I also created colored arrows. So just to make it a little bit more specific on where these might be. So when I put together something like this, I'm thinking of just the rich mathematical discourse that we could be having with our students in something like this. So another use for the tools. Let's see, maybe there's one more. Let's see. Pattern count. And I think this one, if this is the one I think it is. Yes. Remember what Ryan said earlier about the versatility, I know that wasn't his word, of the 100 board, and how how versatile it is, and how many things we can do with our virtual 100 board. I made this would probably be at 5th grade, right? So we could do some counting with fifth graders. Doesn't have to be whole numbers, could be decimals, right? I could also change the range if I wanted to, and it would still maintain those decimals. So when you hear that name 100 board, you know, really think outside the box and think about how we can, you know, how you can use that, get in there, play around, discover some of those nuggets that you might see. If I'm going to start at, let's see, 500s, or 500s, sorry. Get into the manipulatives, play around with them. You will, I guarantee you, you will discover some nuggets that you didn't notice the day before. All right. Okay. So again, think a little bit outside the box. How can we, you know, use these tools? I missed where the 100 board slider is. Oh, sorry. Let me go back. I get excited sometimes. All right, down here, click on this little range there, and now I can change that. I can change the range. There we go. All right. Over here, I can change whether it's whole numbers or goes to 100 or 120. Again, just wanting to show the versatility of that 100 board. All right. Okay. Now, tasks. So with your subscription, if you click on, once you're signed in, if you click on resources, you have access to 246 tasks for grades 1 through 8. So that's an average of about 30 per grade. And these are tasks that are intended, we built them ahead of time. They're there, they're easy for you to use. They've been vetted, they've been through a process, they're standards-based, and they're ready to use. So to save you a little bit of time, so you don't have to go and create all those codes as well as teacher notes. So let's take a look. I'm going to go to grade 4. So I can filter them by grade. I could do multiple grades. I don't know if anybody out there teaches multiple grades. You can also, so let's say I'm going to take grade 4. You could do a keyword search. And I better check that metadata because I can't believe that there's no fractions in grade 4. So let's see. I'll click on domain, number and operations in fractions, and here I can see it's filtering for me all those. Here you can see the Common Core State Standard number and operations in fractions. And let's see. Let's go to. I'm going to pick one of my favorite ones. Color Me. All right, it's about decimal fractions. Pull up the teacher notes. Again, these are PDFs, so you can download them. My browser is set so that I have to make it. I have to make a choice to download it. But again, I could download the PDF, and I just want to do a quick walkthrough of the components of the PDF. So it's got a nice little title. We give the learning objectives. Students understand tenths and hundredths as equivalent fractions and decimals. Quick description of what students are going to be doing in this task. Over here in this left-hand bar, we identify those mathematical practices that kids are going to be engaged in as they perform this task. And then we also give some alternate manipulatives that they can use if they wanted to differentiate or do a similar task. We suggest some other manipulatives. You see a screenshot of what it is, of what the student-facing piece looks like. And then we have the launch. Now, the launch is intended to access prior knowledge. So we purposely wrote these to help students connect to the content that they're going to need as they start this task, to help them make that connection. It's a short little activity. Sometimes they're based in an app and you can go in an app. Other times it just might be a discussion. But because we don't want it to steal the show from the task itself. So here's the task. quick description of what they're doing in the task and the math, some of the mathematical importance. And then we have these questions. These are not meant to be a linear set of questions that you want to ask. Okay, what is the relationship between? Or now let me go to the second bullet. These are questions that are intended for the teacher. So as he or she is walking around, or even having a live session, ways that they can help facilitate that discussion and get kids, I'm going to say, unstuck, or help them get started. That's their intention. It's not, they're not one word answers. There's something to get kids thinking and get them going and get them started. We also give a solution. Now this particular activity or this particular task has multiple answers, and we'll take a quick look at it. We also provide some information about, common student misperceptions. Hey, if you see this, you see a student doing this, you may want to try this to help them to move along. We also have over here in the right-hand column, every task has an extension. So whether it's extending the content or if the extension might be a writing activity, so that they could maybe write their process or write through their thinking. And then as kind of a closure activity, we have the math talks. Now these math talks, again, these are not yes, no questions. These are questions that are intended to help you pull that thinking out from kids and have them describe their thinking and talk about what they did for their solution. If their solution makes sense, what strategy did they use? So again, these are questions intended to get kids in those habits of mind that we often talk about, and getting them going to have those discussions so they can describe the work that they did. All right. How do you access them? Well, copy the share code. Now I see a share code box here. And here's the student-facing portion of that. Here's what the students are working on. If I wanted to differentiate, I could turn on the grid, if that helps. Again, take a look at them. As you learn more and more about these things, you'll be able to start to make your own, make them your own and make it fit the needs of your students. We will also have available, oops, I didn't put it on that document. We will also have available in June, we will also have Spanish versions of grades 1 through 8. So the student-facing piece will also be in Spanish. So if you have Spanish-speaking students, or if that's a need in your school or your classroom, know that that is also available. And also in June, we will have kindergarten tasks, I believe about 37 for grade K. They were so much fun to work on. And we are really excited to be releasing those in June, because we begin allowing requests for those. All right. Ryan and Kara, I know you guys were monitoring the chat, and I thought I saw, Ryan, that you were going to demo something if we had any time.
Yeah, no. Yeah, just a couple things that I had seen, Mark, and you can do it because since you're sharing your screen. The couple questions I saw was, can you share more than one manipulative at a time? And currently that is not an option. You are going to sign into, or you're going to choose the manipulative you want to work on, and it'll be there. Now, like Kara showed you in the live, if you had a pre-made code, you can switch there, but we are working on that one at a time. The next question I saw was, can students save their work? Yes. Like I said at the beginning, anything you can do, a student can do, and vice versa. So if you see them doing something, be like, hey, how'd you do that? They can share it with you. But in the share code, the students have the exact same thing that you do, minus that live bar, because they can't go live, but they can share, copy, and download the image. I've seen some teachers say, copy the image, paste it into a Google Doc, and they have all their kids' work there. It's awesome when they do that. The last thing that I wanted to answer a question too. Someone said, hey, this was great. Are we recording it? Can we watch it later? And yes, every webinar is recorded. And then in the next couple days, it will get placed up at the very top. There's a link there for it. But at the very top of your page, where like resources and everything, it says webinars, and there's a link to all the fabulous webinars we've had posted in the past. And there are some fantastic webinars on here, from lower grades through upper grades. So I suggest going back and looking at these. And when you get a chance, check them out, because they're there, they're available to you. Even if your trial runs out, you can come back and look at those because they're on the main page. But those are my things, Mark.
Great. Thank you, Ryan. Thanks for monitoring the chat. Yeah, if you see the past webinars, I know this lady is on the webinar tonight. So hello, Annalise. Come back, check our, sorry, I got to scroll over here. Come back and check our website for our upcoming webinars. We'll be having a summer learning series this summer, so keep coming back. And if you want, like Ryan said, view those past webinars. So again, here's any contact information if you want to get in contact with us. Wonderful. Oops, sorry, my Siri was talking to me. Feel free to reach out to any of us. As former teachers, we love to help and love to think of ways to use our tools.